If we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Is this one? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we still do have a mask mandate in here, so there's masks somewhere, Chris, up here. So if you don't have a mask, we ask that you wear one. If while you're talking, you need to pull it down so you can be heard, that's fine. If you can't hear me or any of us, please kind of give a wave or, one of these saying you can't hear us. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Councilor Cook? Here. Councilor Janick? Here. Councilor Edwards?
Here.
Councilor Burk?
Here.
Councilor Vieira?
Here.
Councilors Perry and DeMedeiros are absent.
Thank you. So first items before us are the consent agenda. Item A, approval of town council minutes, March 5, 2022 special meeting. Councilor Perry abstaining because he was absent. March 8, 2022 special meeting. March 14th, 2022 regular session. March 14th, 2022 executive session, and March 21st, 2022 special meeting. Councilors DeMedeiros and Perry absent, so they abstain. Item B, acknowledgement receipt of minutes from boards, commissions, committees. Item 1, Personnel Board, 2 sets of minutes. Item 2, Open Space Commission, 2 sets of minutes. Item 3, Dog Park Advisory, 1 set of minutes. And item 4, Historical Cemeteries, 7 sets of minutes. Item C, acknowledge receipt of reports. Item 1, Treasurer Surratt, February 2022 budget and revenue reports. Item D, acknowledge receipt of correspondence. Item 1, Town of Charlestown, resolution in support of legislation on controlling blasting. Item 2, City of Pawtucket, resolution in support of Bill number 2022 H7427. Item 3, City of Woonsocket, resolution in opposition of Senate Bill 2244 and House Bill 7198. Item 4, AG Miranda. The person's initials are A.G. Miranda. It's not an attorney general. Letter to the Tiverton Town Council dated March 19th, 2022. And item E, approval of tax assessor abatements for $1,859.32. Does anybody wish to remove anything from the consent
I
agenda
do,
for
Michael.
discussion? Donna?
Yes, I would like to pull D3,
B?
D3, City of Woonsocket, resolution in opposition of Senate Bill 2244 and House Bill 7198, and also pull A.G. Miranda letter to the Tiverton Council.
D4?
Yes.
Anyone else? Okay, I also want to pull B3, which is the dog park advisory, and B4, which is historical cemeteries. Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda absent those items?
So moved.
That's a D3 and D4.
B3 and B4. B3 and B4, and then D3 and D4. So, Deb, I think you made the motion?
Yes.
Second. Second, Bill. All those in favor? Aye? Any
Aye.
opposed? None? Okay. See, we don't have to go around for all the
No,
votes.
I'm so used, I'm like,
We're used to being on Zoom, and you have to ask
I'm like,
each
oh,
person
gotta
for
use
every
my
little vote.
go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just going to do very quickly B3 and B4. My only concern, Chris, with B3 is there's really no substance to it. If you look at that, if somebody wanted to know what was happening at that committee, they really wouldn't know.
Well,
It just kind of lists the agenda items, and that's it. So,
No votes, no nothing.
so if you want to follow up with
I will.
the chair, the dog park advisory. And on the historical cemetery, these are all 2018. My question is, do we know if they're now up to date with all of their minutes? So if we can find that out. You probably don't know tonight, but if we can find that out. And if anyone else, any other boards and commissions have any outstanding minutes? Donna, moving
Yes.
to D3. What is it, 4D3, I guess it is? The Woonsocket
Yes.
resolution? Can you tell people so that they know what it's about?
Okay, this Senate and House bill regarding municipal employees arbitration and how they want to do it, I think this is a very important thing to pay attention to. What it says, and I will read it. Whereas the Woonsocket City Council believes in a fair collective bargaining process and balanced interest arbitration process, and whereas the Rhode Island Senate Bill S-2244, co-sponsored by Woonsocket Senator Melissa Murray, and House Bill 7198, will institute an arbitration process to include the right of an unelected arbitrator to enter into and execute an effective and binding collective bargaining agreement. Emphasis added. Whereas the Rhode Island League of Cities and Towns, in a letter of testimony submitted to the House Committee on Labor dated February 2nd, 2022, and attached as Exhibit A, expressed significant and meaningful reasons of cities and towns to object to this legislation. And now, therefore, be resolved by the City Council of the City of Woonsocket, Rhode Island, as follows. Section 1. The City Council respectfully requests that the leaders of the House and Senate, the entire Woonsocket delegation, and all the General Assembly and membership reject Senate Bill 2244 and House Bill 7198 as repugnant to the best interests of the state and the most especially to the best interest of the interests and taxpayers of the 39 cities and towns. Section 2. That the city clerk, upon passage, provide a copy of this resolution to the members of the Woonsocket delegation, to the General Assembly, and the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, the Honorable Senate President, the Honorable Chairman of the House and Senate Finance Committees, the Honorable Governor and City of Town Clerks of cities, towns, and Rhode Island. This resolution shall be effective immediately upon passage. I don't think I should read what the
No, that's
cities
okay.
and towns
I
said.
just wanted the summary anyway.
Yeah.
So folks would know. So why did you want to pull this, Donna?
It's saying that personnel is the largest component of the municipal budgets, representing more than 75% of budgets in some communities. Passing this legislation would give unelected arbitrators even greater control over municipal budgets with no recourse for taxpayers. As the committee is likely aware, most cities and towns require local councils to approve collective bargaining agreements. This protection is intended to ensure that the contractual promises do not exceed available dollars. It also provides an important balance between the needs of employees and taxpayers. However, an arbitration decision does not need to be ratified by a city or town council, which means that arbitration awards on wages or benefits could blow a hole in local budgets, increasing the likelihood of higher taxes or service reductions. There are several concerns with expanding binding arbitration rights to wages and monetary issues. The scope of this legislation includes not only municipal employees, but also school system employees who are not certified teachers. Combined with binding arbitration for public safety officials, a substantial component of municipal budgets would be locked in by binding arbitration awards, which means city and town councils would lose authority over the budgets that the residents elected them to manage. There are also practical implications to how binding arbitration would work in this case. If a town and its municipal employees cannot come to an agreement on wages or other monetary matters, a panel of unelected arbitrators would decide. The bill states that arbitrators should look to the pay scales in other cities and towns of comparable size. However, It does not require the arbitrators to consider the specific budgetary outlook of the city or town. As a result, some comparable cities and towns may not be so comparable. Rhode Island has a lower per capita income than Massachusetts, Connecticut, or New Hampshire. If an arbitrator uses these comparisons, cities and towns would be providing wages that their town bases cannot afford. Unfortunately, the greatest impact of expanding binding arbitration would ultimately be increases in property taxes. The Rhode Island cities and towns raise about 2/3 of their revenues from local taxes and fees, with the remainder coming from the state and primarily for schools. Of the locally raised revenues, about 3/4 comes from the property tax and the rest from various fees. As a result, if costs go up because of arbitrator awards, cities and towns will be forced to raise property taxes. Rhode Island communities already have 8th highest property tax burden per capita, cannot afford to go any higher. The League's members believe that the current binding arbitration process is lengthy and expensive. We should be reforming it instead of expanding it and giving more power to unelected arbitrators. For these reasons, the League and its members are opposed to H 7198. Thank you for your opportunity to testify.
You want to speak to this, Donna?
I just think this is very important. It takes what is our job away from us, and I think I would like to make a motion to sign on to this type of resolution.
So we wouldn't be able to make that, we could have the solicitor work on a resolution to come back to us like we did with the other one.
Sure, if the council so
Is there
chooses.
any concerns about having Mike work something up for us to consider at a later date? Hearing none, can you do that, Michael? Yep.
Thank you, Michael.
On this next one, just so folks know, it's a complaint from a citizen. If that person happens to be here and wants to speak to this, they're more than welcome to do so, about some changes to a property next to them, which is, according to this letter, caused some flooding and other concerns with runoff, and he or she is asking that the town look into it. Donna, you pulled it off.
Yeah. My concern with this letter was that I wanted people to be aware that there is this problem, because we kind of put it aside and then no one's aware, except maybe us. I'm having problems a lot of times figuring out why we can't come to a solution. There's many people just frailing out there and can't get a solution where it's not my job, or this one said it's not their job, and all, and that's all well and good, but the person still doesn't have a solution. Is there any way to get a solution for this damming problem?
So we've recommended a number of solutions, Donna.
Wait, you meant daring with the D-A-double-M. We know not D-A-M-M.
It is DAMMING. You know, beavers.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
It's okay, Doc.
So we've had our Department of Public Works look at this extensively. We've had our zoning office take a look at this extensively, and our building office take a look at this extensively. This is a land dispute matter between two neighbors. Unfortunately, one of the neighbors lives in Massachusetts, and the other one lives in Rhode Island. The complainant. We've recommended, and Rhode Island DEM has recommended, that the complainant deal with Mass DEQE, Mass DEM, Mass Freshwater Wetlands, about the individual who's done construction on his property. It's between those parties, not the town of Tiverton. There was no construction done on the town of Tiverton. It's a result of something that was done with his neighbor. We don't have standing or jurisdiction to deal with this. We've had, it's a freshwater wetlands issue. We've had DEM out there to take a look at it. DEM also recommends that he deal with Fall River and their freshwater wetlands. I can't make this fellow whole. This is one of those anomalies that I can't resolve. If we do, we're exerting ourselves into another jurisdiction, another state, where we don't have authority anyhow. And I'm not about to expend town taxpayer money on something that there's no fruitful avenue for this to be resolved. In all cases like this is basically a civil matter between two neighbors. And we have done extensive work on trying to resolve it for this individual, He doesn't like our answers, and he doesn't like Massachusetts answers or Fall Rivers answers. I don't know how to resolve it for him. I understand his issue, but I can't make it whole, because the problem comes from Massachusetts onto his property. It doesn't come from Rhode Island. It doesn't come from any construction project that took place in Rhode Island.
Comes from Massachusetts.
So we've recommended where he needs to go. He doesn't want to hear it. He wants us to do his litigation for him.
Okay, I just wanted to figure out what's going on here, so I was civil.
It is civil.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the receipt of items B3 and B4, as well as D3 and D4?
I'll second that.
You make the motion.
You made the motion, Jay seconded it.
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, thank you. Are there any public comments? No? Okay. Moving on to the first of two public hearings. The first item is item 6A, Cultural Survival, Danae Laura. Approval of sound variance for Cultural Survival Bazaar at Tiverton Four Corners Arts Center, 3852 Main Road, on July 23 to 24, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and approval of special event permit, non-advertised. I would like to open the public hearing. Please, Danae.
So good to see everyone after so many years. Donna, you requested.
Oh, thanks.
Are there any questions?
So just orient us.
Sure.
So folks know, this is the same location that it normally was in the 2 years ago was the last time, I think, right at the corner?
You got it,
Okay.
exactly. So we have an updated map, which is great, and it'll be the same event. The main changes recently is that because of all of the developments within the business district, we're placing parking in Jim Holland's field so that there's more space for all of the current businesses. But outside of that, everything's the same. We've been here 24 years now.
And so folks know, because I'm not even sure where Jim's Field is.
Sure. It's just down, actually, we have copies there,
Oh, okay.
and it will be labeled.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
And I noticed, and it may be a typo, I'm not sure, but you state, is it in here? Yeah, in the cover. Set up on, so the event is 7/23/24, set up on 7/26? You mean
Oh, thanks.
7/22?
Yeah, the Friday.
It might be, I didn't check the inside, I just noticed that.
Very much a typo.
Okay, so
Thank you.
On 7/22.
Changing the dates at all the venues is always that one specific detail, dates and times. Thank you for catching
Oh,
that.
you're welcome. And you have permission of the property owner?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
She helped with the map. Thank you.
thank you. Any discussion, any questions? Does anybody in the audience have any comments that they would like to make? This is a public hearing. Actually, I'll come back to the council members after I ask that a few times. Does anybody else have any comments to make to this public hearing?
How did it go last year?
We've been down the last 2 years, right? Meaning due to COVID, we've been on hiatus.
Right.
So are you wondering?
2019?
Yeah, are you wondering when we were last active? Yeah, in 2019, it was great.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, it's a very successful event.
We're looking forward to collaborating with the police department for, because of the parking piece, for safety reasons on that main road. And that will be our main challenge this year. I was going to come grab a card from you. Yep.
One more last time, any comments from the public? Any further discussion from the council members? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve let me find my agenda item. Approve the sound variance for the Cultural Survival Bazaar at Tiverton Four Corners Arts Center, 3852 Main Road, on July 23 to 24, 2022, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and approval of the non-advertised special event permit pending meeting all legal requirements and work with the chief. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Bill and
I'll second.
second. Deb. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye? Okay, passes unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you, Council.
there.
Thank you, Donna. And if you've never been to our Indigenous Art Festival, please mark your calendar. Come.
Yeah, it's a great event. It really is. Okay, moving on to our second public hearing. This item B, Portsmouth-Tiverton Rotary Club, Sharlene Patton, approval of sound variance for 64th Annual Father's Day Car Show at Longplex Sports Center, 300 Industrial Way, on June 19th, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and approval of special event permit non-advertised.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we move this to after item 8H.
Okay. I understand why. Do we have a second on that motion?
Why? Why are we moving it?
I don't know. if I
Because
get Deb
8H deals with other issues on that complex.
That's not fair to these
Parking
people.
problems and others at multiplex. And this is going to,
This is an outside
that will,
event, though.
that will impact this.
I'll second it then.
Okay. So there's a motion to move this later on the agenda after item
8H.
8H,
Or you can move H
or we can move the other one up. True.
Or we can move the other one up, yes.
So I'm going to suggest we do that, so these guys aren't wading through a whole bunch of stuff. So let's take a vote on Jay's motion first. All those in favor of moving this down on the agenda, raise your hand. All those opposed to moving this down on the agenda, raise your hand. Okay, so it's 3-2 against. So do I have a motion to move 8H before us,
So-
before this item right now?
So moved.
Second.
Bill, and then Jay seconded it. Any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor of moving 8H up? Okay. So,
So
yeah, just
okay.
sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You're caught up in a little bit of other stuff going on, so.
And I will say,
I saw the agenda.
this isn't a reflection on the event.
Right.
It's just something else been going on.
Yeah, I did see the agenda, thank you.
So, Chris, do you want to speak to,
So I'll give you the thumbnail sketch of what's going on with some of the issues, and this is just for discussion purposes only. I didn't ask for anything other than 8I to be addressed as it relates to this. We've had a number of issues with the Longplex complex over the last, say, 6 to 8 months. These events that he's having are causing an extensive amount of liability on behalf of the town when it comes to parking. These events that he's having are in excess of what he's able to contain on his own property. So both Progress Road and Industrial Way, this past weekend, not this weekend, the weekend before, we had an incident in there where there was parking on both sides of those roads. We couldn't even get emergency vehicles in there if we wanted to. And my fear is when Bill Sales starts, and he starts hauling lumber in there, and when the industrial park does sell and we start construction in there, and then we have the corner facility that the storage is, they're a nanosecond away from starting construction there. That liability doesn't fall on those owners, it falls on us as a community. And I am not comfortable at all with the way that he's running that facility there. It's his prerogative to do what he wants, but when you add these kind of components to it, you know, he's got limited parking there now. I don't know how many cars are gonna be at this car show and how many people are gonna come to that car show, but he's not gonna stop his operations for the day. He's still gonna have his ball games and everything else in there, and there's not gonna be enough parking there. And there's no place on his facility to park cars, once he gets beyond his limitations. So that liability falls onto the taxpayers of Tiverton. If somebody gets hurt, that's our responsibility, not his, because we're allowing it to happen. So we've had a number of incidences in there. We've had overcrowding in there that he's got capacity limits that he's fine with. The state law gives our fire chief the discretion of seeking that there are details in there. When he gets over to 300 people, there were cars parked all over that industrial park. Our fire marshal goes in there, and we ask how many people in that facility. He tells us he doesn't know, he has no clue. And he threatens to throw the fire marshal out. We had to call the state fire marshal in. Now, this is not fair to our community to deal with this kind of, I get he's got a business there, but he has to operate his business on his own property and under the constraints of state laws. We've had a number of other minor instances there. I'm not asking to deal with his liquor license at the moment, but if it continues, I'll be back asking to pull his liquor license that we granted for his first floor and put it back in his restaurant. It's getting to be excessive, and I get he wants to make money. I'm not about, trying to stifle his business, but he has to be able to operate his business within the confines of his property and within the confines of the laws that are applicable to his business. So I wanted to put this on your agenda so you would know that there are instances, and I gave you some of the reports that we've gotten from our police department. It's not fair to your taxpayers that we're gonna wind up with a massive, and it would be, if somebody gets hurt there, we're gonna wind up paying. And I'm not at all comfortable doing this. He needs to run his business on his own property. And because it's an industrial park, and it's not suited, and he's catering to children. Most of those events that he has there inside that structure are all sporting events, they're all kids. I am not at all comfortable having this kind of, thing happen on our streets. It needs to be contained. So when we get to what we're looking at as far as a special use, again, I was there for the Public Safety Day last year. It was a great event, but you can only do so much on that property. You can't, he's only got 200 and some odd parking spaces. So how many cars are you gonna have to show? How many people you driving in there? If he's gonna shut his business down for the day, I would say fine, but he's not. It's just not conceivable to have it at this particular venue. So that's the gist of why I put this on. I wasn't looking for a vote on anything. I wanted to bring the council up to date on some of the issues we're having there because you need to know.
I appreciate that, Chris. Going through this, there was some, other than the obvious, too many people in a building, and there is obstruction of fire exits. People, maybe you don't understand, but when there's a fire and smoke, you can't see a darn thing. So how are you going to get out? And if you have a whole bunch of people, that's even worse. You might want to make money, but really, do you want to have what happened years ago where people couldn't get out? So I just think not only is it a nuisance, that you got to be smart about your business. You can't put people in jeopardy of their life. So I don't know what to do. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but this is just unacceptable. And it seems that all he needs to do in some of these instances is keep account and go according to the law and have someone there when there's a certain number. I don't find, if he's making this money, he should be able to afford or have in the cost of someone to make sure that everyone's safe. And I'm not for a business that's not going to do that. I don't want children hurt. I don't want adults hurt. Nobody wants a tragedy happening there. I want them to do well, but I want it to be safe. So.
I totally agree. I do, like I said, I'm not trying to stifle his business, but he has to be able to manage that business with the confines that he has. So if he's got 200, 300 parking spaces, he has to schedule those events
That's
in
right.
between games so that people are going, spaces are available, people can come in. He doesn't want to deal with those kind of issues.
Well-
He just wants to run his business and make as much money as he can, which is, and I get that. But we're at the end of the day, we're the ones who are going to be held responsible for something that's going to happen there, especially if it's on our roads.
Okay.
So I have some grave concerns there. I could have the police chief speak to it if you want, but it's, at this point, I don't really want to go down that road, other than when we get to the next agenda item, which would be beyond this, we'll go back to the special event. But parking needs to be restricted around that area on town roads that we own to limit our liability. He needs to be able to run his business on his own property.
So in public safety, first and foremost, in the code amendments that you provided in the packet, all places of assembly with an occupancy load of greater than 1,000 people shall have a uniformed firefighter and any additional uniformed firefighters on duty when deemed necessary by the chief of the local department or the designee of the state fire marshal in the local department. So in speaking with you, that's something that, so A, it's regardless of if he has 5 people in there or 1,000 people in there or more, because of the size of facility. But the chief has the ability to waive that.
He does.
And he's done that out of courtesy.
We would consider that if we could ensure that he was following the directives that are set forth by the state fire code.
Right, but to date, out of courtesy, we have done that, basically, yes, okay.
occasion.
So, we are trying to work with him,
Where?
but it's a two-way street, and again, some of the comments, some of the reports here is on how our fire marshal was treated is of great concern.
So I met with I had a conference call with the state fire marshal, because they were called down during that weekend, and Chief Gumley came down last week and actually spoke to the owner of Longplex. And I had a long conversation with him after that meeting. And so he had some concerns. He said, look, you can waive that 300 requirement. I said, yeah, I would love to. I said, but the owner has to be somewhat compliant with the rules and regulations. He said, well, I understand he has a liquor license. He's got a restaurant there. I said, did you know the liquor license applies to the entire first floor? He said, no, the owner never told me that. I said, well, that in part and parcel is one of the reasons why we're concerned when you have fire exits being blocked, when you have discussions with our own fire marshal and being threatened to be thrown out of there. We have building issues and fire code issues that he's not adhering to as he's building. He's still not done constructing. He's going to be a while yet. That we have grave concerns about putting that many people in a facility without having some limited ability to at least understand how many people are there and how to get them out. Yes, it is a very safe facility because it's sprinkled, but that in and of itself is not a total issue to not comply with the rules. When he becomes a little bit more compliant, we would be satisfied, if he could demonstrate that to us, that we would work with him so that we could. The last thing I want to do is put details there every week. We're paying for details over the casino every week. The last thing I want to do is ask the fire and police department to come up with more details. So I would love to have him be somewhat more compliant so that we can have an assurance as to what's going on there.
And let me just clarify. We are providing details that the casino
But they
is
pay-
paying
they
for.
do pay
Right,
for it,
I
but
just
we
want to be
still
clear.
have to find the
Right,
staff.
right, and that's the issue,
Right.
is finding the staffing. Yeah, okay.
So the number is 300. Is that the entire building or just the first
Just the
floor?
first floor. It's my understanding it's just the first floor. He can
That's
still
what I
run his
thought.
gym, he can run his daycare, the restaurant
The
has a
restaurant.
separate capacity all in and of itself.
Yeah,
And he does have a mezzanine area that has a certain capacity, but it's the game areas, like down on the first floor.
right, the fields.
And he's got far more than 300 people in there right now, and because of what's been going on with the construction, the permitting, and the events that he has that are not permitted by the town, like when he has these permits, these events, whether it's a basketball tournament, what do you call it, thing when you throw the beanbag, or
Cornhole,
whatever they are.
cornhole.
And he's got all the roads in the industrial park full of parkers. I mean, that's really, that puts us in a huge liability.
Right, well, it is a concern because I have been there quite a bit. I have kids who play soccer there, and ambulance have had to come through. I've never been there with the roads blocked, but ambulances do go through there because they do have kids who get, and adults who get injured. So we definitely need to make sure that that way is open.
But he's got to treat our staff a little bit more respectfully when we come in.
Yeah, no doubt. Does he own any more space
does not.
down? He doesn't?
He owns, the road that goes through, the driveway that goes through, there are a number of different parking lots off of it. There is an area that was not developed for parking. It's a flat area. He has been using as parking. He had an interest in buying additional mall. And I'm not doing this to get him to his design to buy mall in, because believe me, that's a whole other issue that I don't even want to talk about, but it's, he's got to be able to contain that business within his own property. There really is no other available parking there for him to utilize.
And was he using open space land for parking?
He is,
Okay.
which
And did
is
we
another
check?
concern of mine.
Did we check out with the Open Space Commission or
I
whoever?
am working on that as we speak. But like I said, I'm not trying to be penalizing him for, I want this business to thrive, but he's got to be able to manage it in a manner that's contained and done properly and follows the rules and regulations.
So what happens now that the state fire marshal is involved?
I'm meeting with him Thursday, Danny, our fire marshal, is meeting with him to go through some of the concerns that we have. They could come down with a citation. I don't expect them to, because ultimately, we should be citing him, and they would be the appellate board to go to. And then it would go to whatever appropriate jurisdiction in court to resolve it after that. Again, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to fine him, I'm not trying to go through this process, but he has to understand these rules and laws are there for a purpose. And they need to be followed.
Can you, my suggestion is we have Chris come back to us at our second meeting in April to give us an update.
I will definitely give you an update.
Is that okay with everybody? Thank you. Any other discussion on this item?
What do you want this lady to do?
That's the next
Oh, we're going
item.
to come back to that. I want to make sure we're done on this. Okay. No other discussion. There was no votes being taken on that item, so we're going to move back now. Charlene?
Yes.
Okay. To the public hearing, I'm going to open the public hearing regarding the approval of a sound variance for the 64th Annual Father's Day Car Show at Longplex, sponsored by the Portsmouth-Tiverton Rotary Club at 300 Industrial Way on June 19th, 2022, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and approval of special event permit. So if you want to just give a rundown, and then we'll take any
Sure.
comments from the audience.
So my name is Sharlene Patton. I am the president of the Portsmouth-Tiverton Rotary Club. We were just Portsmouth, and we recently combined with Tiverton to, just make our club bigger and to make some more, to help with different areas and things. And we do have members as well in Tiverton. I do have a map of Longplex I can hand over if you guys want to. I'll take one. There may be some areas on there that are marked off. I did get that from Jim. But it might be a little bit easier to also discuss. So this will be our 64th year of doing the annual Newport County Motor Festival, which is the Father's Day car show. Usually we've been doing it at the Abbey in Portsmouth. Unfortunately, since COVID, we haven't had it in the past 2 years. This year, they still weren't sure about doing it because of COVID reasons. We've been also having our meetings, our Rotary Club meetings at Longplex, since we had to find a new venue. And with us talking about the car show, we actually asked Longplex if it would be something that they would be interested in. And we've been working with him as far as, to see if it would work. This would be closed to anybody else. Jim is closing down for just the car show. So there will be no basketball. I have grandkids that go to Longplex and play, and I'm there with our meetings. So it did get and does get pretty crowded. And I understand that, but we have asked him, and he has agreed to shut down. It's a Sunday. And he has agreed to shut down and just have us, the Rotary Club, doing the car show. His people will be there. Sorry. His people will be there to help us out. And we also have some other volunteers that come and help us. And as far as numbers, it's hard to tell you because in the past at the Abbey, we've done maybe 2,000 people, but with COVID and having a new place, a venue, we're not really sure if we're going to be able to even get that far.
Charlene, just interject one thing. The 2,000 people isn't all at once?
No. So we've also extended our hours. We usually get done at 2 o'clock, but this year we're trying to extend our hours from 9 to 4. and having people like car show, the people that are putting their cars into the show, and vendors coming in an hour early so that not everybody is coming in at once. We also usually work with the police and the fire departments, which I would be reaching out to them as well to have detail. And also for the fire department, we like to have them put up the flag for us. All the money that we usually raise for the during the car show does go back to help us with scholarships for the high school. We do programs with the different schools in the area, feeding the hungry, helping with the homeless, things like that. As far as the map goes, I guess if you hold it, like this longer part is the coming in part.
Right, coming in from Fish Road.
Right. That little entrance where that stop sign is before the dots, that area, and I'm not sure, but I thought that area, if we could have, so we were going to separate. So show car people would come where these dots are, and it would be closed to the public. The people that are coming to the show would come up the access road and come down into these upper lots that Jim has in the back for parking. And those would be the people visiting and coming.
Not Jim's property.
Right. So
The
he-
access road is not.
No, not at all. And he gave you this map to
Well,
use?
this is the map that he gave me that I was looking for so that I could try to,
Right, but did he see this diagram with all the dots on it?
yeah, this is the map that he
Okay,
gave to me.
Okay. So he's suggesting that you use,
Well, one
public-
side of, so we were going to put car shows over here in our parking lot, in the lot over here.
right.
And over here.
yeah,
And then coming out of here in the circle, it all depends on how many cars we get registered. We're doing a pre-registration to try to get
right.
a good number ahead of time. And then we do have people that usually show up the day of to go ahead and put their car in the show. And this would be one-sided if we were able to use this. But I don't know yet.
Yeah, no, and I don't think anybody questions the importance of the event,
Yes.
you know, and all the good things that you do with the funds you raise. As you heard from our other discussion,
Yes.
there's significant concerns we have about the use of public property by a business without, so my preference would have been for him to come at least to the town administrator and the chief and say, hey, I want to host these folks. Here's what I'd like to do. But that voice isn't here.
Right, yeah, and this is my first
Yeah,
time.
I
had no
know. This is
idea.
not about you.
Yeah, no, I would have had him here if I had to, because
But
believe
even,
me.
it shouldn't have been here. It should have been a
Before,
prior
okay.
conversation.
Yeah,
Jim has a history.
yeah, no, this is, like I said, being at the Abbey, it was private property, so this is all totally new for us. Even when I came in to do the forums, I was like, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I mean, we're just trying to find a different
Right.
venue this year, trying to make it good for the public and for, what we do. We didn't want to cause any issues or take over anybody's parking. And maybe we can get, a happy medium and you guys can let us know what is suitable or what is, available for parking.
So what is your drop dead date in terms of being able to get that advanced registration and, because you're going to have to advertise and everything like that?
Yeah, so right now we are working on we don't have a flyer or anything. We've just kind of been posting on Facebook that we possibly are having the car show with the different venue, trying to go forward because it does take a lot of money. We sell ads to make a booklet to pass out that day, and that's how we get the money to raise for what we need to run the car show. And then the money that we get from that, we turn into funds for the communities.
So if we had to continue this public hearing until our next meeting, which is April 11th, and we took
Yeah.
action that day, that would work, I hear what he's saying?
That should work fine.
I can't guarantee what the action would be, but I'd like to hear, so first off, thank you. You can stay
Yeah,
there if
and
you like.
these are members.
Yeah,
So
so-
this is Tom, he's our treasurer, Michael's our sergeant at arms, Linda is our secretary, so.
Great, so if any other members of the public would like to speak to this
Do
is
you wanna-
the public hearing time, and then we'll have some discussion. Yeah, just sign in there, please, thank you. And Chief, I'll have you come up in a minute.
You just put your name on, is that it?
That's all you need, right? Yep.
My name is Tom Swanson. I'm a past president of the Rotary Club for years. Did a lot of the shows at the Abbey. We're looking to try to figure out how to make this work as a transition piece and maybe be an annual event here in the town. I understand all your questions because I used to be on the town council in Portsmouth, but I've never been over here. This is sort of cool. So I guess there's two ways to do it. One is what she showed you on there, which she just got this afternoon. But I also heard something being passed around. I'm just trying to get maybe a little feedback from the council that he had spoken that he would be, he's friends with like Jay Leno and this and that, and they have collections of Corvettes and whatever. And if he shut down his whole place, in the back of all of the courts are these big garage doors. So if he actually gave us the whole inside and brought all the cars inside, lined them all up, and then had people come to view them and use the outside parking lot for the handicap part and then also spectator. And then if we get to capacity, then we get to capacity and use, police and fire to help us manage the traffic scene. Would that be something that would be easier for you guys to go along with, or is this? This is the first I've heard of a fire safety exit issues, or I go there and exercise. So I don't really know, but so I was just trying to get a feel for. Should we pursue one way or another? I know you can't tell us that, but would you feel better if it was an indoor show with just the parking outside only on his property? So I don't know where his property completely extends.
Right, and you
I was
shouldn't
there a
have
little while back when they had a big gig, and they were parking on both sides of that access road, and it got all ruddy and all messed up, and to me, that seemed like it was an accident waiting to happen, so I understand that. Now, if you parked on one side, or just, as I say, how about eliminate entirely in parking the show cars indoors, which a lot of people like because it's out of, in case it rained or something happened, and then having just spectators in the normal parking lots that you guys have. And I don't know how far the land goes up, but at one point he says, "Oh, just park on the side of the road and just walk down, whatever." We're here to get guidance from this council, and we want to do the right thing.
No, we appreciate that. I think what we're going to end up doing, at least my suggestion, is that we have the chief and the two chiefs and Chris work on this and reach out to Jim.
Okay.
To talk, and that might be an option, I don't know. Even closing down the road, as Sharlene has suggested, that's not his decision to close down the road, it's ours, and we weren't even aware of.
Yeah, I was assuming that road is not his, other than that driveway part.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
right,
Not until we saw this map.
right. So I appreciate the map.
A picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, let me just ask if there
Well,
are
it
any.
opens our eyes too, because we didn't know.
Right.
What one person says, but then come here, you guys tell us.
Right, well, and we do want to make sure we are business friendly. And I think some of you are probably business owners, so it's a two-way street. Being business friendly means that the business also has to understand what the rules are and inform their participants, whatever it might be, of those rules, so we can all make an informed decision. And that's not what not on your end, again, not on your end at all. I'm not hearing that here, or seeing that here, or hearing that from our staff. So I just want to follow up with the public hearing. Any other comments from the public?
Okay.
Any other comments from the public? Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Chief, can you come up, please?
You're going to continue the public hearing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We're not closing the public hearing. We are continuing the public hearing until our April 11th meeting. Thank you for reminding me. Chief.
Good evening.
So just your initial thoughts on A, closing the road, B, the concept of moving the cars indoors and having his regular space available for normal parking. Initial thoughts, not holding you to anything.
Sure. So to echo some of the comments that the town administrator said, you've seen the pictures in your backup. the weekend before last, it was a problem. We had cars parked on both sides, and to echo what he said, if there was an emergency, whether it be a rescue, a fire truck, even a police car, it would be difficult for us to get, it would be a time issue. So as far as the folks from the Rotary Club, obviously to echo what you've all said, we'll work with anybody to make this work. My initial thoughts on this is I'd have a problem with seeing a long line of cars parked from Progress Way all the way up to Longplex. That's a road that, it's an open road. So if there are people with cars parked on the side, they're going to want to stop, they're going to want to be casual, and that's going to mean police details are shutting off that side of the road. What I'd like to see is being able to work with the Rotary Club on coming up with a safety plan that would encompass the police department, the fire department, how many people, as their registration grows, we have an idea of how this is going to impact us. And if it is the council's purview when we get to that item that we pass an ordinance to restrict parking, that I'm sure the Rotary Club would honor all ordinances for parking. So this way, they tell their members, you can't park on Progress or you can't park on Industrial. So that would limit them to the actual complex, which is all we're looking to do.
Okay. Other discussions from the council? I don't know.
No, I think that's what we want. We want it to be safe, we want to be business friendly, but we want it to be safe for everyone who's attending and anyone who needs to get through.
Sure. And it's a family event. Like the administrator said, we had our public safety day there. But also, you had the benefit of half the police department, the fire department, and the Rhode Island National Guard. And those folks don't want to pay for that. We were there for free. And we were able to kind of coordinate that. This is something that is expanded, and we want to work with these folks to make it a great family event. But my issue, given what we've seen in the past, with what's going on at Longplex, we don't want to see something bad happen that's going to destroy this event after 64 years. And without some force of the council and the police department and looking at the ordinances, I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to do this going forward.
So,
Can I say something?
oh, yeah, sorry, Bill, go ahead.
So, not to be the contrarian, but I'm the contrarian sometimes, as you know. For the Kids Safety Day, we did shut down the industrial way at the Progress Road.
Yes.
And we shot everybody up Progress Road and around back. That, though, doesn't solve the problem of a rescue vehicle needing to go up Industrial Way, because if they do have cars blocking the road, even if you did shut it down, that still causes a safety issue.
Correct.
So we're back, even if that was a recommendation, it wouldn't solve the problem.
And also, I don't know how much of a budget they're going to have that they're going to want to hire 12 police officers. Because that's how many we had there. And that was part of what we did, and their time was voluntary. So we were able to kind of control that whole area because of the Public Safety Day. This is something that I don't have the resources to kind of commit to all of them, not knowing how big it's going to be. We'll help them out as best as we can. And I think the other issue, Councilor, is they're actually coming forward and doing the right thing by approaching us. This happened 2 weekends ago, and we got caught off guard.
Right.
And I think that's the issue that we're dealing with.
So quite possibly, some of those cars may have to go inside on the baseball field or the other field where the inflatables, I think, may be on now. But for year one, it may have to be scaled back somewhat, depending. So,
We don't even know how many people are going to come.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you haven't had it in 2 years.
And I mean, he is closing down, and he did, if we need to use inside, that is fine. And, in the past, we do have people, a couple of guys, like, doing the parking from the Rotary. They'll direct traffic, make sure they're in the right lots. We used to use the Abbey and St. Philomena's, so we used to direct them into the right spots. So we do try to keep it as, in order as possible, and
When you say that he has indicated he's closing down the facility, is that including the gym?
yeah, the
Everything,
building is
the
closed for the
bar,
day.
everything.
Yes. Building is closed except for his employees that are gonna help us, and then what we have.
That was
Yeah.
the first thing we had said to him.
So let me ask you this, would you, I assume the answer because of where you used to have it, you generally do not have any alcohol served at these
No,
things?
we do not.
Okay,
It's
okay.
non-alcohol.
And would he, even be able to do that if he's closing the facility?
I think we would have to make
That a
a
condition?
condition of this license. So
Yeah,
we'd have to
okay.
say that
Yeah,
the
we
facility
could
has to
do
be
it
closed.
Yeah, okay. So any other comments, questions from the
Well, I
council?
have
Jay?
a comment. I'm glad to hear that the owner is saying he will close down all other events, but I would ask Chris to get that in writing, because he likes to push the envelope.
I can get it in
He'll
writing.
say he's going to do one
I'm
thing,
sure you can. You could probably go faster than me.
and the next thing you know, that isn't what is happening. And as far as the town safety day went, that was a town safety day, and we coordinated that very carefully. And we were allowed to shut down Industrial Way. But Mr. Long cannot on his own, and it appears he thinks he can. And he probably told you he thinks he can.
No, well, he didn't say yes or no, he just kind of showed
He
me,
implies.
like, where we could park cars kind of thing.
Right.
You know,
Nice.
to see.
He didn't get any waiver of liability for any of that though at all, but I bet you he made
But
you
we
sign
also,
one.
we do have insurance.
I'm sure you
and that
do.
he does too.
But that doesn't apply to our property. It would only apply to where you are.
Right.
I see.
So Jim's a nice guy. He's a hell of a salesman. And I don't mean that derogatory.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does, but he needs to rein it in somewhat. So
I understand.
I would totally appreciate it if, because I do think it's a good venue.
Yep.
I do think it's a good opportunity, but if we can utilize the inside of that building, we'll work with our fire marshal to make sure that can,
Yes.
to what extent that can be done.
Sir,
Yeah, we're open to that totally.
do you have a question?
Give
sir?
us- I mean, in the past, we've had a couple of detail officers from Portsmouth, like 2, maybe 3 at the most. How much is a detail? Is it a 4-hour block of time, or how's it?
It is.
No,
What does that go for nowadays?
Probably looking at about $200
Per
for the
4
4
hours?
hours?
for 4 hours.
Okay.
Just because we haven't run our event now in 2 years, after all these years. We are the oldest running car show in all of New England. Anyway, so our budget is really depleted.
Of
We're
course,
down to,
of course.
we've been giving everything away. So we got to get an idea if we can afford to do it, so.
I think what we're trying to do, sir, is make it so you don't need a police officer there. And I mean, and
Well,
what- and
I
what
think
you-
we should have.
in the sense of, we
We've
can
never had
have,
a problem.
yeah, we can have officers go there while they're on duty and make sure that we're checking the area and checking with you, introduce themselves, hi, I'm on duty today, we do that all the time.
Awesome.
But we just want to make it, when you presented the map and I see cars all the way up the road, that's clearly a problem.
Yeah, definitely. I'm open to work with anybody,
Yeah,
anytime.
so with the agreement of the council, unless I have any dissension, can we have the town administrator work with the chief of police, fire, anyone else, if you need Rick involved from DPW, I don't know, and the Rotary Club folks, as well as Jim Long, to see if we can come to an agreement and come back at our April 11th meeting?
We have one numbers on here.
Yeah, and I pointed out some things to the clerk and to the chief about the packet too that I need to show you later.
Sharlene, you're 816650.
No, I'm 401-207-2586,
401217.
207-2586.
Sorry, I forgot about your TV. Please don't call us.
Yeah.
So the hour of the event on the application, it says 8 to 5, but then you said 9 to 4.
Actually, it's 9 to 4, but it's 8 for the.
Set up and break down?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, thank you very much, and we'll see at least some of you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good luck. We'll see what we can do.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Amanda's here.
I am going to
Great, thank you.
move us back. We are now at appointments and resignations, discussion and possible votes on these items. First one up is item A, Planning Board, 9-member board, 3-year terms, 1 vacancy, and that is Amanda Souza, 160 Ledger Lane. Request reappointment for the term ending 7/15/2024. We held this over from our last agenda so Amanda could be here. Thank you. So Amanda, can you just give us an idea of why you want to continue on the planning board?
No idea. No, just kidding. No, I've really enjoyed my time. I've learned a lot. I love helping the community. Yeah, I just really think it's beneficial, and I enjoy it.
So what do you see the role of the planning board member?
What do I see as
As the role of the planning board member? How would you describe it if somebody, not an elevator speech, maybe a stairwell speech up a few flights?
Geez, put me on the spot. I guess to fairly assist residents or businesses with making decisions on planning their property needs, I guess. Does that sound okay?
Okay. I want to go to the council members, see if they have any questions first. Any questions? Deb? You're reaching.
I was waiting for Donna. She always jumps in first.
I'll give you a chance.
So, Amanda, how many years have you been on the planning board?
I am not sure. I'm so sorry. My brain
all
is
right.
like in 4,000 different directions. I'm still in work mode right now.
Is this your first? No.
No, it's like my third, I
Third
think.
appointment?
So you've been on
Yeah.
it for a while.
Yeah.
And you have been attending most of the meetings?
Majority, yeah. I just opened a small business. So I've been trying my best to juggle everything. I feel like I'm sort of getting back on the right track to be more, attentive, but, and having COVID and everything really didn't help either. But yeah, and, I'm here.
Jay and I are the liaisons, and I think you've been at most of the meetings.
Majority, yeah.
in
It's
the
just been
last
a
year or
really
so.
weird past couple of months, but yeah.
So if you had any suggestions for improvement of the planning board, I am really putting you on the spot.
A little bit, thanks.
Do you have any thoughts on ways we could improve it?
I did see that the televised thing for the planning board. I think that's a really cool idea. I think sometimes it's really hard to find the information on the agendas and where they're going to be and times and stuff like that. So I think maybe advertising in different ways or trying to get the community more involved in that aspect is helpful. Because I know I had to email Joan today. I was like, am I there? Am I not there? And I was trying to find it through the website. And sometimes the website's a little confusing. I don't know. I could just be like a 95-year-old woman inside. But
No, I agree with you.
I just think more transparency on that kind of stuff would be a little better.
I agree with you.
Just anything to really get the community involved. Because even like today, there's not a lot of people here. What ways can we make it so that the community is more involved with decision makings and stuff like that? Because it's important.
It is. I think that the work that goes on the planning board and the zoning are very important boards, and so that's why we're hoping to have them televised so that
Yeah.
people could see them. I know that when I started as a liaison a little over a year ago, I was finding it very overwhelming because there's just so much that goes into the planning board and
Yeah.
for a participant to go before the board.
Yeah.
So I know that they're looking at kind of putting like a checklist together. I know that
I mean,
Jennifer was looking at something
there's
like
tons
that.
of learning. I mean, I don't think that it's not something you just learn like overnight. There's different scenarios in different cases, which is another cool thing is because some of the members are older and there's the younger, so you get so many different perspectives. Like Rosemary knows a lot of the history and stuff like that. So stuff like that is kind of like just helpful, and different members bring different things to the table, which is really nice.
Exactly. So that was all the questions I had, but I know your business is busy.
It's been a little crazy.
Yeah. But I know that you've been working hard on the planning board also.
Well, thanks.
Anyone else? So my one question, Amanda, really comes from an email exchange setting up the solar ordinance committee.
Yeah.
Which I also currently sit as the voting member, but we're going to fix that tonight. And in it, you had mentioned 7 o'clock is a hard time for you because of your business.
Yeah.
And the planning board meets at 7 o'clock. So Can you just speak to that?
We actually, I think, meet a little earlier. We meet at 6, yeah.
Okay.
6:30.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. Oh, is it 6:30? Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
even that little half hour makes a difference?
I am an old lady in the inside. Yeah, I like to be home by 9 o'clock.
Okay.
I mean, it is what it is. I can rearrange things. You know, it's just really, staffing is really crappy right now. It's like to get staff in there right now,
Fine
so.
help, isn't it?
It really is. So, and I'm learning that aspect too, you know, everything's a learning experience, so, you know, we'll get there. We'll get there.
I think she was kind of doing it as a favor, to be that planning board member to represent the best way she could, so I think we have to try to
I'm trying.
try.
That's fine.
I want to thank you for volunteering.
Yeah.
It can't be hard. It can't be difficult. It must be difficult to be on the planning board, especially when the applicant doesn't dot their i's and cross their t's, and so I can only imagine, but we appreciate you volunteering and being here tonight. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Do I have a motion to reappoint Amanda Souza of 160 Ledger Lane to the planning board for a term ending 7/15/2024?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? And because she came, this was before us last week, we don't have to waive our policy, correct? Okay.
It's a reappointment.
Okay. So, all those in favor? Unanimous? Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the next item should be fairly quick. So the Solar Ordinance Advisory Committee, we put together to create a zoning ordinance for solar energy. I was one of the appointed council members as a voting member, and then Bill stepped up saying he'd really like to do it. So what this is suggesting that A, I be removed as the voting member, Bill be put in as to take that position, then I be appointed as an ex officio non-voting member. So I could attend, I will try to attend as much as possible. I won't have a vote, and it also won't be counted in quorum, so it won't create an issue for that. Any discussion? Do we miss something? No, sorry. If hearing none, I will entertain a motion to remove Michael S. Burk as the council representative to the Solar Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Bill and then Deb. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, and then I'll entertain a motion to appoint William J. Vieira as the council representative to the Solar Ordinance Advisory Committee. Jay, do I have a second?
Second.
Don, Deb? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your hand, unanimous. And then the third, appoint Michael S. Burk as the ex officio non-voting member, as an ex officio non-voting member to the Solar Ordinance Advisory Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Deb and then Bill. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Moving on to Councilor Janick. Discussion and possible vote regarding authorization and funding to video record and live stream planning board and zoning board of review meetings.
Okay, so I brought this up a couple of weeks ago because I thought that video taping for the planning board and zoning would be, make everything more transparent. It would help with their minutes. It would make people a little more engaged. They are hearing some cases that really have the ability to change the face of Tiverton. So I think it's important that the public can see that. So when we talked about it, you were, Chris, going to...
So I did reach out to Andrew, at least to start with, and there's a conflict with the number of cameras that they have, and the fact that they do school committee meetings at the same time. So we haven't resolved that conflict yet. Ideally, you know, obviously under our American Recovery Measures, we want to get this place wired up. So, and we would like to get it so it's automatic, that any voting commission can come in here and have a meeting and it automatically goes up to YouTube videos, and I think we can work our way through that. But it's a commitment of time and equipment right now that they may not have. So, and we're still working our way through that, but I think everybody wants to, I think everybody wants to do it. It's a matter of getting the right equipment.
Right.
And the timing. They're not always available. So as you see, some nights it's either Steve, it might be Andrew. It's also a commitment of their time as well.
I know at one point we were kind of told there wasn't money for that.
So we can use council contingency monies, or we
Right,
can use
and-
American Recovery monies if you wanted to.
And I did talk with Andrew, and I know that they are spread out pretty thin.
They are.
And that it does conflict with other committees, school committee being a big one.
But it might be something
But-
we could reach out to the Tiverton technology classes to see if there's somebody who has a school project that wants to do it, that, if they have the equipment, that, we could maybe have the Rices train them or something so that they could do some of the classes. I mean, there's other options besides them if they're not available to do it.
Okay.
But, so let me keep looking and exploring that in the
But
meantime.
long-term, we are looking at using some of the recovery money for
Yes, this place
modernizing.
absolutely needs to be outfitted so it's technologically up to date. And that any meeting, budget committee, town council, zoning, planning, any of them can have a meeting here and just flip a switch and say, fire it up and go. It's just a script that needs to be written for it so it happens. It's, so I think we can get there. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else on this?
Down to that, that's why we haven't had it.
Anybody have anything else on this item? So Deb, you're comfortable with?
Come in here 9 weeks.
I am comfortable that we will have a resolution to this at some point.
We will, quick.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Moving to general business item B, Gordon Craig, Brayton Woods Owners Association President, discussion and possible vote to refer to the police chief the request for consideration of 4 proposed stop signs within Brayton Woods for the purpose of vehicular speed reduction. I believe you're Mr. Craig.
Yep, I am.
Thank you. Come on up and give us a summary of what you're asking for and why.
Good evening, thank you, council. I believe in your package you should have the request and also a map. If you don't have a map, I have extra copies. Do you have the map? Would you like the color map? Here, you can pass these around. There we go.
Colors?
It's a little easier to see. So Brayton Woods, if you're familiar with it, it's a neighborhood that's been established back in 97, 98. It consists of North Christopher and South Christopher Avenue. Those avenues are straight runs, and it's about 1,700 feet, almost about a third of a mile. And over the years, people just get on that road and they just get going a lot faster than 25 miles an hour. So the residents, we've been living with this for years. Chief Jones has been very active in the neighborhood throughout the years, and we've been coming up with ways or trying to find ways to alleviate this speed issue. And it seems like currently it's getting worse and not better, and I think we're seeing that on our roads throughout town. So what we are proposing to do is break the traffic with creating a 3-way stop sign on North Christopher. And now that the extension of Line Road is continuing through the Abigail Estates, the South Christopher intersection would need a 4-way stop sign. So I'm coming to you tonight with really 2 requests. The first is to create a 3-way stop sign halfway down North Christopher, create a 4-way stop sign halfway down South Christopher, and then figure out how to deal with putting a stop sign at the end of the Line Road extension where it reaches North Brayton. Now, I know that part is still in flux because that neighborhood is still under construction, and maybe you haven't accepted that road yet in the town, but maybe a temporary stop sign, because I've personally had a construction car come right out as I'm traveling down south on North Brayton, exiting the neighborhood. I've had cars come right out in front of me off that new Line Road extension. There's no stop sign there. People don't realize that they should be stopping. And so that's what we're proposing. And what we would like tonight is for you to take a vote to just refer this to Chief Jones so that they can do their proper work. And potentially, if they find it to be valid, then refer it back here for then transfer over to DPW to perhaps do the work.
Questions for Mr. Craig? When you saw that car, you're absolutely certain it was a construction?
It was a pickup truck with a
Yeah,
ladder on it.
Okay,
I would
okay,
call it
yeah.
somebody,
I'm
one of
just
the
thinking that there's
builders.
probably a way we can at least backtrack to the contractor and say, whoa, keep your guys,
Yeah.
at least for now, being safe on the roads.
There's some homes that have sold, and there's owners living in some of those homes already. So you have still construction happening with other houses, and you have owners in that neighborhood now, that
Okay.
extension.
Okay,
That neighborhood is not integral to the Brayton Woods neighborhood, but they've extended Line Road. Well, technically, yes, but technically not, because our association doesn't extend into their plot of land.
the other obvious piece is setting aside your neighborhood being there. We always have parents and the like going into Ranger School and coming out, kids probably walking
Yeah.
those streets, especially
Yeah.
around school time, so
Yeah.
clearly that's a safety issue.
And I'd like to mention one more thing. Currently, on that short line road extension that sits in between North Christopher and South Christopher, there currently is stop signs at the end of each of those. Yeah, and there always has been. Those were installed when the neighborhood was new. There's also a stop sign
At
at,
one time, or?
what's that?
Were they dead ends at one time? Because it's odd the way you would think that there's a stop sign.
No, there wasn't a dead end. It's just the way the traffic goes. You come to a T, you come to a stop.
I'm talking about in the middle.
Yeah, the middle section is a roadway, and on either end of that small cut-through, there's stop signs.
Right, so not where he's showing this arrow right
Okay,
now.
all right. That's kind of what I thought.
At the two Christopher intersections.
Exactly.
Oh, those I get. Okay.
Just online.
All right.
That little arrow in the middle is just a note saying that there are already existing
Okay,
stop
all right.
signs there.
So why would there be signs there?
Yeah, and there is
In the middle of the road.
there's also a stop sign at the end of South Christopher
Okay.
onto North Brayton, already existing.
Is there one at the end of North Christopher, or is it just Christopher?
There is not one at the end of North Christopher because the way that runs, there's no other
No
traffic coming.
obstruction.
It's kind of like just a hard right turn.
Unless you're going into the school.
Well, the school has a stop sign at the end of their driveway.
Right.
So
but if
they
you're
stop
going
the
in- If you're
traffic.
coming from Christopher into
If
the
you were
school.
crossing across the
Doing that dog leg, yeah.
Well, it's a dog leg,
Yeah.
so it's kind of not straight up. You
Right,
kind of
right.
turn, wait, and then turn
Right,
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to note that when I first moved to Rhode Island, I was very surprised, coming from Pennsylvania, almost every street corner had a stop sign. I was very surprised at seeing the lack of stop signs throughout Rhode Island. Just befuddled me.
Yeah. I grew up in New Jersey, and it was the same way. There was a stop sign everywhere.
Is that Lynn Road or Line Road?
We call it line. It could go either way, but if it was Lynn, might be Lynn.
Yeah, and the ordinance is Line, Line Road, and North and South ends there.
It's kind of line with it. Instead of a I, it's a Y. So everyone in our neighborhood calls it line.
I don't like it.
It might be Lynn.
We can fix that.
Oh, so the ordinance is misspelled?
The ordinance
Yeah.
is fixed. So the
That's a
referring to the, just so you know the procedure, referring to this chief of police, if his recommendation comes back to us, we have to pass an ordinance, public hearing on the ordinance, and then pass it an amendment to 78-37.
Okay.
Perfect.
So as the police chief, do we have numbers, like, has he sat there and watched? I know they speed around there. I get that, I've seen it.
We've had, over the years, we've called the police department to say, bring a cruiser out. You know, we'd give them some ranges of times when we observe speeding, early in the morning, late at, like, around, dinner time. And the other thing that really plays kind of into this is that at certain times of the year, so that these roads go east and west and north is due north. So the sun at certain times of the year is blazing down both North Christopher and South Christopher from the west, almost to the point where it's blinding. So if you take that in combination with speed and kids and children and neighbors walking, it's really not a great situation. And that road is about a third of a mile long. So you can get people get going. I mean, I've had people come flying, and I live on North Christopher, halfway from North Brayton to Line Road. And I've had people come past my house heading west, already in excess of 30, 40, 50 miles an hour sometimes.
So are these generally your neighbors? No?
Not really. There are some neighbors and we've spoken to those neighbors. You know, the
Kids' friends, it's their relatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, some kids like to cruise around there in the mornings. You know, it happens, you know, before the school, you know, they take a couple rides around and then they go into the parking lot. Yeah. So, but like I said, they've stationed cruisers at different points and, you know, have observed and, you know, and just their presence helps sort of re-educate, but they can't be there all the time. And alternatives, really, I mean, speed bumps don't work because of the winter and plows, they get ripped out. So stop signs should at least break the long run.
Other questions, discussion? If not, do I have a vote to refer Mr. Craig and his association to the police chief to look at the request for consideration of 4 proposed stop signs within Brayton Woods for the purpose of vehicular speed reduction?
Need a motion.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Jay,
Second.
Deb, second it. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Rick, you're up. Jay, I'm going to let you take this for a minute. DPW Director Rick Rogers, discussion and possible vote to approve funds to advertise bids for the following supplies. I'm not going to read the numbers, I'm just going to read the items, 1 through 15, by 2-minute concrete paving, wash stone, bank run, gravel, screen loam, crushed stone, and dense graded stone, high-density polyethylene pipe, HDPE, concrete block catch basin structures, catch basin frames and grates, unleaded gasoline, clear ultra-sulfur diesel fuel, daily landfill cover, crack sealing, line painting, tub grinding services, guardrail installation, septic tank pumping, on-site wastewater treatment system inspections, uniform rental service, roadside grass and brush mowing, and a partridge in a pear tree. Oh, sorry, not that last one. Jay, do you just want to run this while I run the count?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
You're in the
Thank
middle,
you.
Rick.
Thank you, Mike, for reading those. Yes, DPW would like permission to advertise these bids. If there's any questions, happy to answer them.
I have a question. You do septic tank pumping and inspections?
The town inserted, DPW inserted that on-site wastewater inspections, I think it was 3 years ago, because the town does have properties and inspections are part of the system that we're supposed to be reviewing. And
Beach, Boglands, a couple of others, Town Farm.
Yeah, we need to talk about bogland.
and septic,
For another day.
yes. And as Chris mentioned, septic tank pumping, in particular, we wanted to get better prices on Grinnell's, which has to be done periodically. Because that's a holding tank, not a septic tank.
Correct. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Rick?
We do these every year, so.
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that. Okay, so we have a motion to approve Rick's laundry list of bids for Public Works labor and materials.
I'll second.
No, you first it, and I'll second it.
Okay.
Donna made the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Deb seconded. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Don't go yet.
Don't go anywhere, Rick.
You're not done.
Yes.
DPW Director Rick Rogers, discussion and possible vote to approve funds to advertise for maintenance labor labor seasonal help.
Yes, yes, thank you, Mike. We do this basically every year. We've been unsuccessful the last couple of years. People have not signed up for it, but nonetheless, hope springs eternal in the human breast. We're going to try again this year. They would help DPW with some activities, and also they would help, hopefully, at the beaches.
So on a skill level, high, medium, low?
The somewhat low, it would be nice if somebody who was retired said, gee, I'd like to work for a few months, doing a little bit of painting or repairs, but it's not mandatory.
And is there an age limit? Lower age limit?
Basically, we're looking for 18 so they can drive a town vehicle, but it's not required. If the only person who signed up was a 16-year-old, then we would probably hire them because they could at least drive their own vehicle and just do work at the beach, and we'd have to pay them mileage to go from beach to beach. But that's, an alternative.
And so you had trouble the last 2 years? Is that largely because of COVID, you think?
Unknown why, but it's certainly a factor. It's not that, terrific a job, working at these locations, sometimes helping clean up. But it's a job and it pays all right.
I had worse jobs at that age.
It's a great job for a parent to have their child start their first way into the workforce.
So do you reach out to the school, the high school?
We would like to do that, yes.
Yeah, please do.
I'd like
Yeah,
to do it.
yeah.
But you have in here, graduation from high school or GED equivalent is one of the desired minimum qualifications, but you'd be perfectly willing to waive that if you could shake the bushes in the high school and get somebody to volunteer.
Yes. Volunteer as paid.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
and this is running from when to when?
It's actually variable. We have the ability to start anytime once somebody applies. It's basically a cost measure. I think there's $10,000 allocated.
Yeah, because I'm thinking if it's a summer job, you got college students and the like, people just coming out of high school wanting something for the summer, so,
Right.
yeah.
It is geared, Mike, towards the June, July, August.
Yeah,
Why do they have to have a high school education just to do some of the things here? That takes a lot of people.
well, I think it's desired, it's not required,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
They even want that.
I know it
at
doesn't
McDonald's
say that,
anymore.
a minimum, well,
Is that what, I don't have it in front of me, because I was,
What's that?
the qualifications.
Graduation from high school or GED equivalent, experience in building trades, maintenance and repair is preferred. Any equivalent combination of education and experience, ability to use tools,
Yeah.
yada, yada, so.
Yeah, so it's desired,
But they're
desired
desired, so
minimum.
they could be, any could be waived.
Because I would meet a bunch of those, but you don't want me building things for us.
We'll train you.
Not at all. No.
It does say desired, it doesn't say shall, so it is,
Unfortunately,
they'd
I
like to
can't
have
do
it that way.
so.
well.
I put a doorknob on last week. I felt good about that.
Well, I'm still in high school, so I won't apply. I don't know.
No, we would hope they would read the whole thing, so they would know it's not mandatory. And also, it's a good job if you want to learn a little something about whether it's beaches, recreation, DPW, facilities, road work, building repairs. It's desirable from that point of view, which hopefully some people would like to learn.
Yeah, I would definitely reach out to the high school, Bill.
Definitely a foot in the door, should you decide to, at some point,
Yes.
join the crew.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to approve funds for the DPW Director to advertise for maintenance/labor seasonal help?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Bill. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you again.
Yep.
Thanks, Rick.
Check that high school.
Town Clerk, discussion and possible vote on ratification of a one-year extension of Avenue Enterprise Solutions, LLC, for a contract for land evidence, probate microfilming, storage, and recording.
Thank you, sir. That's exactly what it is. It's a one-year extension. There is one difference between this one-year extension to the last one. This one only requires a 3-month notification of end of contract, whereas the other one, the last one, had 6 months. So I can re-advertise, I can resubmit an RFP to replace this system.
Is that 3 months on either side? Meaning 3 months from us or 3 months from them if they want to cancel?
No, it's 3 months from us.
Okay, so what if they decided to not do business with us? What kind of time frame do we ask of them? We're in the middle of the contract here, month 4. Do they have to give us certain notice?
I don't think,
But if they didn't give us any notice, it'd be a breach, right? So
Right.
if they just decided not to, they would be in breach.
Right, but do we identify 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks? Or if they decide, and I'm thinking of a contract I'm working on right now. If they decide to sell their business to another vendor, and this is more, actually as much a discussion on similar contracts that we might have for software and the like, to think about, Chris, is, do we have any section in the contract, language in the contract that says that they have to give us so much notice if they want to back out of the contract, or if they're going to be bought out by somebody, things like that?
so Avenue has been bought out multiple times over the years, and it just continues. This particular item is a 3-month notice by the client.
Okay.
So because it's an it's amendment to number 2, I'd have to look at the entire contract.
Yeah, I'm not looking to
But I understand your
get that, and put that in the way. I'm just,
Yep.
it's a question for,
What's the 2020 dogs program? What was that?
Dog licensing.
license.
Dog? Oh, okay.
Dog licensing.
I think the underlying agreement, Mike probably has that
Okay.
information by then.
okay.
We didn't look at that, because this is only a 12-month extension. so
Right.
it's not- I'm not too worried about it.
Any discussion, questions? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve, to ratify a one-year extension of Avenue Enterprise Solutions LLC contract for land evidence, probate microfilming, storage, and recording with the town clerk's office.
Moved.
I have Jay as making the motion. Do I have a second?
Second?
Donna? So Jay made the motion, Donna seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, aye. Unanimous, thank you. Councilor Edwards.
Okay, here we are again. So as you all may remember, at a couple of meetings ago, we had a very long discussion about the proposed ordinance of how to deal with casino revenue. And at the time, we voted against the resolution that was, or the ordinance that was presented at that time, which had been a joint effort between Mike Burk and Mike Marcello. And I volunteered to take another stab at it. And in all fairness, while I was in the middle of writing this up one day, I got an email from Mike Burk, who I thought had washed his hands of the affair, had not. And it turns out that we pretty much wrote the same ordinance that is before you now, which varies not significantly from the last one. The big difference is, I'm going to read
From the,
this.
you mean the existing ordinance? It varies not significantly from the existing.
Well, not only that, it doesn't vary significantly from the proposed one that we shot down.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I think it does, actually.
Well,
But anyway, go
we'll
ahead.
get to that. So the simple one thing is that I'm not going to read this whole thing line by line. Section 2107C1. First, from the Casino Gaming Revenue Fund or the Casino Gaming Fund account to the general fund account until the balance of that account is equal to 3% of the town's current year operating budget pursuant to Section 310 of the Home Rule Charter. And you remember that the previous discussion had centered around a 10% number, and there was a lot of resistance to that. So that's returned to 3%. Once the general fund account equals the percentage as set forth in section C1, no further transfer to that account shall be made, and any individual additional received money shall be transferred to the restricted capital projects account. And there will be only one restricted capital projects account. The previous one we discussed was going to have two. They're going to be divided up. So we changed that. D, casino gaming revenue only can be allocated and expended after the fiscal year in which the town receives the revenue unless the town council, by a supermajority vote, which is 5 of 7 members, determines and documents that an emergency exists and approves the use in the same fiscal year the revenue was generated. So that concept is don't spend it before you have it in the bank. E, within 30 days of the close of the fiscal year, the town treasurer shall report in writing to the town council the amount of casino gaming funds available for allocation and distribution consistent with the purposes of this ordinance. And following receipt of the town treasurer's report, the town council shall meet with the town administrator and the school committee to discuss capital needs that may be funded through section C2. And that's exactly how we did it this year. Any funds appropriated from section C2 shall be done through a resolution or resolutions of the town council. And nothing herein requires the town council to expend any available funds from these accounts, but at no time shall the town council have the authority to transfer any of these funds to the unassigned general fund account or to cover operational expenses for either municipal government or the school department. And one other thing I forgot to mention, at the top, 2107B. Within 10 days after the end of any fiscal year, the town treasurer shall record $200,000 of the receipts for the prior fiscal year under Rhode Island General Law 42-61.2 to .7 to the unassigned general fund account. The $200,000 represents the sports betting revenue, and that's a fixed number, will not go up or down. So that is, and this would repeal the existing ordinance 2-107 in its entirety. So this represents a compromise on some of the things we discussed, and it gets rid of the troublesome 10%, which was designed really to increase our restricted capital reserve to get it up to a reasonable and prudent number, but without changing the charter to reflect 10%. It just proved too problematical. It just wouldn't work. So that's the presentation. And Mike, since you wrote it, the two Mikes, do you have anything to add?
So a couple things, just to remember that for tonight, we're not voting on passing it or not. We're simply voting on whether or not to put something forward for a future public hearing and setting a date for that public hearing. And, this was done in conjunction with Denise Surratt. So when we talk about the account names, she provided those account names to us, so we would make sure that we had accurate names for it. Jay, did a great job of explaining the components of it. It is replacing the current ordinance that's in place. This is intended to be less complex than the last draft that we spent a long time discussing. It simplifies it. It doesn't have the multiple accounts and the like. As well, the existing ordinance had some language, and I don't know, it's here. It said, on the 1st of January, April, July, and October, the town treasurer shall transfer all monies in the casino gaming fund. Denise said it doesn't work that way. Money goes into the account, and then she'll move it within, the 30 days of the close of the fiscal year. And then we would still use a process similar to what we used this past year, in that we would get some ideas. We'd have ideas, the town administrator would come with ideas, school committee would come with ideas, then we make decisions on it. But the decisions would sit with this body, not with any other body. Again, it's focused on capital, except for the money, the $200,000 that is put in that unassigned general fund, which certainly can be used by us, by the budget committee, for the purposes of addressing tax issues. And then it does remove the sunset date, so this would not have a sunset date on it. It would go into effect as of July 1, which is when the current one expires.
So can I just-
Mike, yeah.
I'm sorry. So this AF is what I think Jay and you had worked on. I don't know why this happened, but I had just changed a very few things. I can just point out the changes. And they're mostly grammatical. So if you look at C1, it says, this is what the clerk just passed out.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. It says, current proposed, it says, first from the account, in other words, any remaining funds from the casino game fund after the application of section B shall be recorded by the town treasurer as follows. And it says one first from the casino, and I just changed revenues from the casino gaming fund account shall first be transferred, and I used the term revenue instead of funds. I just changed that. That's that. And 2 is the same, except there's a typo in number 2. In the last sentence, any remaining fund balance shall be transferred to the restricted capital projects account after C1 is met. If you get just rid of that after the shall be shall, it's just a typo there. Doesn't change. I think that's it, really. That's the only thing that was just, it was just,
So, Michael, I was just
oh,
looking.
yeah, and from, is it,
Where's from?
C1, there's 2 froms there.
It's frommy?
C1,
It's frommy?
from.
I was just looking at one of the emails that Denise Surratt had sent, and she thinks you covered this. She said back to me, I think remaining should be changed. I think it has to say something like remaining current fiscal year receipts.
Yeah, she did. We didn't make that change. I'm sorry. Where was that?
So that's in C.
C2?
No, it's in C, the body of C. So I think what she is suggesting is remaining funds recorded
The following fiscal year.
to the casino gaming fund in that fiscal year.
And any receipts from the prior fiscal year.
Yeah, she had it, so I think we should probably just let it go to
Let it go,
public hearing.
we'll change it
We
then.
can work on it then, so we get the right language.
Yeah. Her concern was that there could be different interpretation. So we want to make sure that if there's any, there could be a year that you don't spend any funds for whatever reason.
Right.
And she wanted to make sure that it's really remaining funds in that fiscal year.
Right.
So just everyone understands, one of the things for immediate tax relief is that $200,000 from the table games does get put in the general fund, which then can be used by the budget committee, the town council, whatever, for immediate tax relief.
And while I did not watch it, my understanding is that the budget committee, I think budget member Perry pointed out how what we have done with the casino money this year, as well as with our additional federal funds through ARPA really was a positive thing from their perspective, in terms of taking the capital needs off the books, so to speak, off the regular books, and using these special funds to support those efforts. And I think we also see that in the money that we've invested with the schools, but will reap a significant amount of money back, which can continue to be reinvested. So it becomes that kind of revolving fund opportunity to be used as long as we have it available to us to take care of those tremendous needs that we have for the municipal capital needs, as well as the school capital needs. And it doesn't build our operational side to an extent where it becomes unwieldy at some future point if these funds are not available to us. Discussion?
I think it's a great job. I think you guys did a great job. In B, it talks about the unassigned general fund. And then in number 1, it talks about the general fund. We're talking about the same account, right? The same general fund. I just think we should label them the same,
Yeah.
so that we're not calling
I do
one as
believe that is one that
unassigned.
she did not catch. Let me just,
Keep the flow the same.
Right.
I just want to look at one thing. Do you have the marked up copy that you just?
Yeah, the red one?
Yeah, the red line copy.
And of course, you know, the gaming revenue,
What does that say?
So,
think of the gaming revenue as two components. Gaming, table gaming, and sports betting.
There are two separate general laws.
Yeah, but that's not what, wait, that's not what Deb was asking about. Let's not,
no, I'm talking about in letter B, little letter B, it talks about the unassigned general fund,
Okay.
general fund account. And then in number C1, it talks about the general fund account. Those are both the same accounts.
Should be general fund unassigned account.
So I just think we should label them the same.
so amend it to where, anywhere where it simply says general fund account, it would become unassigned general fund account. So that's you'll find that in C1, on the second line of C1. You'll find that on the first line of C2. Just trying to see if it's anywhere else. I don't see it anywhere else.
No, it talks about it in E, but it refers to it as the unassigned.
I believe that's a technical issue, but I don't want to get into the weeds of this. When the money comes in, it goes to the general fund. There are a number of components within the general fund. What that language currently states is that the $200,000 in sports betting goes directly to the unassigned general fund. Every dollar that comes in, whether it's dog fees, planning board fees, they all go into a general fund. They get redistributed, but we don't label it as unassigned.
Yeah.
They go to the general fund, period. So there's a distinction, because when you get down to the level of the unassigned general fund, that's available for spending where others are not. Some of them may be obligated, but they still go in the general fund.
Yeah, that's true.
So
It's accurate the way it is.
I believe it's
Because if you,
totally accurate.
if you look at, and again, Denise Surratt looked at, if you look at A, any revenues or payments received and paid into the town's general fund account. And
There's
then,
an account called the general fund account that money's come into.
It's all one account, though.
It is, but then that general fund account at the end of the year gets redistributed into different categories. Some of them are assigned, some of them are unassigned, some of them are completely obligated. Some of them are, like when we had the municipal capital accounts and monies that were taken out of any monies that weren't spent, they're obligated, they're in the general fund, they're not in the unreserved general fund. There are different categories within the general fund that are still general fund. So globally, monies come into the general fund, at the end of the year, they get re-obligated into different categories. Like the CARES money. I give you an example. All the CARES money was an assigned general fund. Couldn't be used for any other purpose. American Recovery monies, an assigned general fund purpose. It went into the general fund. The auditors wound up making this classification based on the components and criteria of those particular individual components.
I thought
So
those were
that-
all separate,
No, they're not.
Now, that's what Denise spent a
There
lot
was a
of time
general fund
educating me
component.
about, too.
because I thought they were all different.
No, there's a clearing account called the general fund.
And the charter requires all funds to go to general fund first, so this is what, that's why we do it like that.
But what we're doing here is obligating that sports betting to specifically go into the unreserved general fund. No, yeah, unassigned or.
For unrestricted spending on anything.
No, if for some reason there was an emergency during the year and that money was in there,
Yeah.
it would be stripped out and you may still have to redo something to get back to that
Yeah.
3% again. It is what it is, but it's just a different component. in that
So I'm going to suggest we not add
Not do that,
unassigned.
no, I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Other discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain,
We have to set a date, right?
a motion to,
Oh, yeah, can we just change one thing?
Oh.
The other thing, so the effective date G, it should be, I put July 1st, but the other ordinance expires on June 30th, so we should just change the effective date to June 30th, 2022.
okay. June 30. All right. So here's I just want to note the changes as we vote on this. Using the version that Mike gave us that does not have the council item number on top, under C1, we're removing one of the froms. Under C2, we're removing one of the shall be's. And on G, on the effective date, we're changing that to June 30, 2022.
And we're removing the extra period in D. This is-
Oh, yeah, and D, you're removing the extra period. So, I think, Jeannie, we
So it's
talked
gonna be
about
effective
possible
on-
dates,
sorry.
right?
G, the ordinance will be effective on June 30th.
For this, isn't this one of the ones that we talked about possible dates?
Yes, I have to pull my notes for that.
Okay. Yeah, if you could, because we spent a lot of time.
Gotta change the date on this copy. June 3rd, we had to change, you're referring to the
Effective on, not as of.
On,
Oh, hang on. Effective as of,
No, on.
on.
Get rid of upon as of.
Okay. So you're taking out on G, this ordinance shall be effective on June 30.
2020.
And then Councilor Edwards just pointed out the last line of E, we don't have a pool department, we have a school department.
Oh, yeah. You have a pool department?
No, cool. Cool.
Again.
Oh, that's so cool.
So Jeannie is getting some, we had talked about some, projecting out some dates at our,
Oh, well, we're looking at different
I think this is
versions of
what
things.
the dates out to.
it was already fixed.
Yeah.
So when we are ready, I'd be looking for a motion to send the amended proposed ordinance concerning the establishment of reserve accounts for funds received from the state pursuant to RIGL 42-61.2-5 and 42-61.2, that should be -7 up top in the title, -7, right? We don't have 3 dots in our laws.
Yep.
To a date that we'll set, so
Same thing in A, then.
in A is the same thing, yeah, in A. So 42, when you see 42-61.2, it should be .2-7, not .7.
And in B.
Yep, in A, and in B too, Michael, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because part of the challenge here is they can't advertise until next Monday now, right?
For my notes on the 14th, I show we're going to do a tentative hearing on May the 5th.
Okay, which is,
It's a Thursday.
This requires 3 weeks, right?
it's 21 days, but they can't put the advertisement in until Monday. So I'm actually going to ask that we do that at our council meeting on Monday, May the 9th,
9th.
because I am now out of town on May the 5th. When we did this, I was not, but I have to go to a meeting and
So that would be the public hearing.
public hearing. May 9th? That works? We can't do it sooner than that?
Well, we need 21 days.
Right.
And it has to be a regular meeting, right?
No,
Could it be a special?
could be a regular public hearing, yeah.
Yeah, if you did in the journal, it would be sooner, but
Oh, yeah, but it's more expensive.
But it would
it'd
cost,
be a lot
yeah,
more money.
costs a lot.
Yep. Well, it doesn't have to be, could it be the form of a Herald or the Newport Daily?
It's gotta be local, Rhode Island.
Right, that is a Rhode Island. No, it's local.
Newport Daily, you mean?
Oh, yeah, Newport Daily. It's only, that's a weekly?
No, Daily is
That's a
daily,
daily? Oh, Newport Daily.
except for it has a weekend edition.
Except it's 3 times as much.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no, we're
So
fine.
May
So
9th?
are we okay with May 9th? So do I have a motion to move the proposed ordinance concerning the establishment of reserve accounts for funds received from the state pursuant to RIGL 42-62.2-5 and 42-61.2-7. I want to say, make sure I read those right. 42-61.2-5 and 42-61.2-7 to a public hearing scheduled for May 9th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye? And all those opposed? Okay, Don is opposed, all others in favor. Thank you. Moving on, Chief? Grant?
Morning, night, Chief.
So, our item is Administrator Cotta, who's passing the buck. Discussion and possible vote to authorize police chief to apply to the Senate Appropriations, U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee for funding to support the town's public safety radio project.
Good evening. So I've been in touch with Senator Jack Reed's office. I had spoken to his chief of staff over the summertime about because as you're all aware, the government's acting or still operating under a continuing resolution for the budget. So I think they're anticipating the budget to be resolved, and they're accepting applications from municipalities for earmarks. So I thought it would be an opportunity, given that we're using a portion of the opera money to support the public safety radio project, that if Senator Reed would give us a portion of that, that would put more money back in our coffers under ARPA. So I'm asking permission of the council for me to apply and get as much money as I possibly can.
And so I do note in the write-up from the senator gave us, is there is usually an expected match requirement of
Yes, sir.
federal match of 20%?
Yes, sir.
And how would we propose addressing that?
So what I would say, given the $850,000 that has been talked about, but not yet approved, I would kind of use that I would craft the application to say that the council is in considerations of this project. They understand the need of the project, and they'd be up to that amount, and see what response that I would get. I would like to think that I would get somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000. That's what I'd be going for.
So we'd be seeking a waiver of the grant requirements of non-federal money to have the American Recovery monies be authorized to be a match, would be one. And we'd probably also there's another grant that we're out there that none of you know about, that predates all this stuff about this process. We applied last year for the American AFG grant, the firefighters grant, also for radio to help with this project. That if we could utilize that for a match as well. But we would seek permission from the granting agency to allow us to utilize those, and from the pandemic recovery office as well. But there is a deadline to this.
Correct.
April 8th.
April 8th.
Now, so we might possibly, if that didn't pan out, possibly have to cough up $50,000 to $100,000, depending what you could get.
Correct. So if the AFG comes in, and the conservative estimates of the AFG were about $300,000 to $350,000. So if I can get at least a match of that or more, keep your fingers crossed that we don't have to pay anything with AFG and Senator Reid.
Even so, a small price to pay for what we'll get out of it.
Do I have, well, any further discussion? Do I have a motion to authorize the town administrator and the police chief to apply to the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee for funding to support the town's public safety radio project?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded by Jay and Bill. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
So if you got a good friend over there, Chief?
No comment.
Do they each?
Hang on one second.
Chief, don't go far.
Oh, yeah. We did the long clips. So now, discussion and possible vote on advertising public hearing for proposed amendment to Tiverton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Section 78-71, Parking Prohibited at all times on certain streets regarding Industrial Way and Progress Road. You see the item in front of you. It's the only I in there is Industrial Road. You see in italics, and then Progress Way on the second page. Again, you'll see it in italics. This is to at least try to start addressing some of the issues we talked about earlier at Longplex. Chief?
Under the current ordinance, under Section 7871, the area which is now the industrial park, Industrial and Progress Way, when the ordinance was written, it was an access road that is at the top of the prohibited parking ordinance that gives the location Town Police Department from December 1st to May 1st access road. What we'd be proposing is actually to introduce Industrial and Progress Way, into the town ordinance so we can enforce parking regulations in the industrial park.
With the suggestion that there be no parking at all on those roads.
We would want to say both sides, both hydrant and the opposite side of the hydrant side.
And does this
The whole thing.
Correct.
both sides?
And to the administrator's comments, knowing that there are several proposed businesses going into that area, I'd hate to come back in front of the council if we're not going to do both sides, given some of the industrial nature of the park, that's going to cause problems on both sides if we allow parking only on one side.
How often on these other streets do you end up having to ticket?
Surprisingly, you'd see there are some that we would do, but it's normally when we get citizen complaints. That's normally when we have to go back into the ordinance and address some of the issues. But for the most part, people are normally pretty good about obeying the local ordinances at least.
And what's the cost?
$20.
$20.
So I'm not clear on,
Go ahead.
We added, before you've done it, is the total list of the current ordinance that says no parking on both sides of the street?
it allows,
No,
No, there is-
prohibits.
does not, prohibits,
Prohibits.
okay.
So what we're doing is we're adding two roads, Industrial Way
And Progress Way.
and Progress Way, to that list.
The two near Long
The two,
Place that we
the
talked
Progress
about
Way
earlier.
and Industrial Lane,
Progress and
Industrial
industrial,
park.
yeah,
no parking.
either side.
I believe it's Industrial Road, right?
You can have one side,
Industrial way.
but not both sides?
Industrial
No, no, no,
roadway is the
no.
police department.
If you look at this map,
Oh,
so
We checked it out.
it says
Progress,
Road.
yeah, Progress Road, my error.
Progress Road.
Industrial Way, Progress Road.
Okay,
So the one here with all the dots,
Right.
that's Industrial Way.
okay.
And then as you're coming into the dots, you'll see the right turn, that's Progress Road.
Okay, we'll double check.
Okay, so we're suggesting no parking on either side.
Okay, so when the ordinance that's suggested here They have Progress Way, not Progress.
So we'll double check
We're
this.
gonna double check this, I specifically talked to planning, they have got all the streets that are.
So we gotta
accepted
resolve.
names, so, yeah. We have a habit in this town of calling a street, or whatever, something that we don't think it is, but it's not.
Well, and of course, without an ordinance that defines those streets, it's kind of hard to enforce parking on
Yeah,
something that you don't have an
we
ordinance.
couldn't.
We couldn't
We can
enforce
do, we
it, that's
can
right,
do.
we couldn't ticket anybody right
Yeah.
now, so, but when that was accepted by the road, when the road was accepted, the name that was there was, we believe we have the correct name, so.
So Donna, did you have something, or you were just trying to
You
figure out?
checked on that, Rick, too, as well? Right, well, we checked with Brayton, Rick.
Well,
signed off on the name.
I don't, considering what it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
industrial park, you got these trucks and everything, why would you have parking on these roads?
Exactly.
It's
Right.
kind of dangerous,
Which is
right?
why we're
Right now, they
suggesting.
do.
There you go, right?
So there
Right now, they can.
Right now, they can't.
You can't ticket them now.
So I will
Right.
clarify, there is one vendor that the Tiverton, was it the Water Authority allows them?
Yes.
To stop on one of the sides of the roads. They get water, it's metered water that they get for pools or whatever, but they're picking up a service. They're not parking for parking.
Right, so it's
Yeah, where the
standard,
water-
standard.
So I've talked to the chief about that, because somebody will say that, oh, you allow them to do it. Really, it's not. It's getting them off on a safe area.
All right.
Just like when a delivery truck
No, I agree.
parks in a no parking zone, which I hate sometimes, but anyway.
But they're
Especially at
obviously
Providence.
making a delivery.
Any other discussion? So I would entertain a motion.
Mike, before we do that, so it looks like, I didn't realize this, but so the access road that's listed on this was the original access road?
It is.
Right, so
Correct.
We're gonna strike that because it's now no longer an access road, it's actually a separate street.
Correct.
So
So,
strike that.
so here, listen, hear me out. I'll entertain a motion to advertise for public hearing, proposed amendment to Tiverton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Section 78-71, Parking Prohibited at all times on certain streets regarding Industrial Way and Progress Road, noting that the town solicitor will confirm the names of those roads and striking access road, town police department from December 1 to May 1st. Does that get it? Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you again.
Thank you, chief.
Thanks, chief.
Now we're moving on to Councilor Cook.
What date was that advertised the same day?
Yeah.
Same date as the other one?
Same date as the other one, May 9th, is that okay with folks to advertise?
Okay.
What does this say? What?
No, we didn't pick a date,
So
so.
the date, so the advertising date for that ordinance was the same, was gonna be as the casino ordinance,
So that's the hearing date.
This too?
Yeah,
hearing date.
yeah. Is that okay with folks, May 9th?
Yep.
Okay, hearing no objection, May 9th.
Sooner the better.
Do we just add that on? We don't need to vote
Yeah,
that?
hearing no
This is a
objection.
clarification.
Okay.
Now, on to Councilor Cook, discussion and possible vote on resolution in opposition of House Bill 6638 and Senate Bill 2340, enact relating to towns and cities zoning ordinances. Donna?
All right. Thank you, Michaels. Great job.
We thank Todd from my office who did it. So Todd Romano, your favorite
Your
assistant solicitor.
Todd?
Todd did it for you, yes.
Oh, nice. Tell him thank you. Thank you. Yeah. He's quiet. He's very serious all the time.
He's all business.
He went to the Citadel, Donna, so he's very, really,
Oh,
yes.
that's quite the
Went to the
place.
Citadel?
He went to the Citadel.
I've been there, yeah. Yeah, they have to walk in the
school.
gutter if they're underclassmen. Kind of weird, but anyway. I guess I should read it?
I mean, I think
It's up to you.
we have read it before.
We've read it before.
We know what it says.
I'll read the first one because we did add in the both. The one I had asked for was just the Woonsocket one, but then we had another one from, I can't remember where it was, but they wanted the Senate bill in there, and I wanted both, so we did do that. Whereas the town of Tiverton opposes House Bill 2022H 6638 and Senate Bill 2022, which is 2340 collectively bill, which would prohibit single-family residential zoning in municipalities with populations of over 20,000, thus further increasing a density in already dense populated communities and mandating those municipalities adopt zoning regulations for middle housing and single-family residential zones. And then it goes on. I just wanted to say that we had added the Senate bill in there. So I would hope that the council was ready to have our president sign this, and it goes to, it's going to the House of Representatives, the Senate, municipalities, legislators, and governor requesting their opposition to this legislation. It is on pause, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come out, and that's the problem. So, without further ado, I'll leave it up to the acting vice president.
So, thank you. First, discussion from others?
Well, the only discussion I'll make is, this is just another example of the state usurping some of the town's authority.
That's their job.
It has happened before. We just saw another example of this earlier in the evening. And personally, I'm getting a little fed up with it,
Yeah.
regardless of the cause they think they're
I know.
advocating.
What do they think they're doing up there?
Bill?
It's very troubling.
No, I agree with it. And although we do not fall in that population of 20,000 or over, that doesn't mean that we won't ever be there. So
once it's on the books,
we want to
just,
make
you
sure,
know.
right?
Stop, change the number to 15.
Right.
Right.
So I appreciate the concerns that are raised. I agree that the way this bill is written is problematic. I do not disagree with the intent of the bill, which I think all cities and towns really need to do a better job of. Most, I should say, there's only a handful that have met the minimum affordable housing criteria of the state, which is 10% of your housing stock, and Tiverton is well below that. And affordable housing is important for lots of reasons. It brings in new families. It brings in, it supports those who are at the lower end of the income scale, not even the lowest end, but the lower end of the income scale. What would be considered lower middle class or middle class families who have jobs that support all of us: wait staff, public safety, entry-level teachers, our custodial staff and the like, our maintenance staff, which in general, it's very hard for people to afford, and especially in this economy, even rents are astronomical. At the same time, I do think the piece that kind of swung me on this was, honestly, when I saw that Brenda Clements for Housing, who is the exec director of Housing Works Rhode Island, which is the premier affordable housing advocacy group in the state, spoke against it, and largely because she felt it was doing what has been described, kind of ramming things down instead of doing the legwork with communities and helping folks understand the concept, the need, and then figuring out solutions. So any other discussion? If not, I will entertain a motion from Donna on voting to support the resolution in opposition of House Bill 6638 and Senate Bill 2340, an act relating to towns and cities zoning ordinances and having it signed and transmitted as indicated in the resolution. Donna, you make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Jay, second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator Cotta, update on Bay Street.
So I'll give you a very quick, I met with Bob Hoffman. He's the individual who's been managing all those properties down there on Bay Street as to how they comply with whatever the settlement agreement was and their mediation. And He's quite an interesting individual, and I do know that he's been before the town council, I think, a number of times to give an update. He opened my eyes about a few things that I was totally unaware of down there, but I do think it would be something that the council should entertain, to have him come before you, even if it's just a presentation at the beginning of a meeting, to kind of give you an update, kind of what he gave me. They've come a long way of trying to do some of the remediations. There are some limited pockets that we still have some concerns with. But I do think, I'll try to schedule him over the next 2 meetings to see if I can get him to come and do a presentation, 5 to 10 minutes tops. And he has a wealth of information about that whole area that I was just taken aback by.
Yeah, I mean,
I have a report, I will have it copied, I'll get it out to you. It's beautiful color thing that he did. It's just regular, but it's not bound or anything, but I'll get a copy of that out to you before he comes, so you can have something to at least digest before, if you got any questions for him, or, at least you'll have something in hand. But I would like to get him at least to give you at least a 5-10 minute presentation, so that you're brought up to speed on that whole area.
Donna, you look like you want to say
Right.
something?
I live on Hilton Street, and there are various problems with septic. The problem being is that you have, since there's no dig, it has to flow down. It doesn't flow up. So because there's no dig, there's no chance of, I guess, my area of ever having septic unless they get rid of the no dig, because you got to dig to get down.
So
There's still no dig.
it depends on whether or not it could qualify for the next shoring project, if the wastewater district wants to include that, but that's something I think Bob could kind of give you a better handle on, as to how do we go about remediating some of those areas? Is there a process to do it? Where's the money going to come from? How are we going to allocate those kind of things? And they have repaired some septic systems down there. They can get relief to open it up, but it has to be monitored when they do it. So, because he told me there was, I think, 3 or 4 of them that he did in the past year or so, that there are some other areas where it's creating swales and it's going through the backs, people's properties, they said there are some real problems down there that really need to be addressed. And I was totally unaware of those.
And there are, I think it's Carpenter Street. Yeah, Carpenter Street actually has sewage. The people all get together on that street, oh God, decades ago, and tied in to Fall River. So they have it. And I sometimes wonder, can't we do it that way and bring it down? Because, I don't know, the whole...
He could give you a far better explanation on how to get it done, and what it takes to get it, to remediate some of those areas. But it is a pretty significant project that needs to be done there.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
So everybody comfortable with having him come in one of the next meetings?
Okay.
Great, thank you. I do want to ask someone to make this motion to amend the agenda pursuant to RIGL 42-46-6B, to add to the agenda related to authorization related to the, is that new? Opioid settlement. Anybody want?
So moved.
Jay, is there a second?
That's this thing here, right?
Yes, it's this thing here.
Second?
Bill? Well, all those in favor? Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. We're going to add that. Mike?
Yeah, thank you. So the agenda should reflect that addition. So, as you know, I guess maybe a month or 2 ago, the council had authorized me and/or the town administrator to sign off on the opioid settlement agreement with the main defendants at that time. Since that time, there was a trial that was supposed to begin in Providence Superior Court last Monday with 2 of the remaining defendants, and I think they were actually distributors. One was Teva and Allegan, and apparently those cases have also settled. So there's a premium paid if I think more than half of the cities and towns agree to sign off on the settlement agreement that was negotiated by the Attorney General. So the plaintiff's attorneys for the AG's office had contacted me, I think yesterday, actually, and asked if I could get this on the agenda so that I could get authorization. Now, we can't vote on it tonight. I'm going to ask you to do authorization for the next, formal authorization next week or next council meeting, but I do want to have you, let you know that I'm going to sign this agreement, and we'll just do it retroactively.
Which we've already given you authorization.
Just for the original one, but not for these two new defendants.
Oh.
So,
Should be for any and all.
yeah, we could do it for any and all next time, but this is it. I think the case is now essentially over.
So how does, I'm going to forget the
Yeah.
family. The family that's in the new.
Different, Sackler
Sackler
family.
So that's
They're
not
already,
related to
that's
this.
different. They've already settled on, I think. So that's what, I think, I can't, I know that you're all interested in how much money you might be getting on this. Remember, Tiverton did not join the litigation, so we're kind of like a hanger-on. I will tell you.
We're a groupie.
You're groupie. So you benefit from not joining, but I will tell you that Situate, who did join, which is about the same population, Situate's going to get $58,000 from this settlement. One of the things that is different in this settlement, and I believe it's Allergan, in addition to paying money, they also agreed to give us in-kind, is it Narcan, sorry. Narcan supplies to cities and towns without any cost to the cities and towns, so we'll be getting that as well, as part of the settlement. So that's part of the agreement, how much they give a specific dollar amount. So I'm just asking for the authority to sign this on behalf of the town, and I will formally get a vote from you from next week, if that's fine. So I didn't want you to be surprised that I signed an agreement without your knowledge.
Are we limited on what we can spend this on? Or is it-
There is a limit.
So there's a rules.
There are rules and regulations, and I'm happy to share with you. I gave a copy to Donna over email and to the treasurer, but there is a whole list
Because I
of
have
rules.
someone in mind.
Good for you. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you. And then our last item, under announcements, comments, discussion, town clerk at the Board of Canvasser meeting on March 29, 2022 at 3 PM. There will be a presentation of the precincting plan from election data systems for determining Tiverton precinct designations and locations. That's it?
Yes. the
That's your
meeting-
announcement?
Their meeting is tomorrow at 3. EDS, representative from EDS is Ryan Taylor. He'll be coming to present to the Board of Canvassers and discuss different precinct locations. We're having an issue with one of the precincts, because normally your precinct polling place needs to be within the precinct, and we have issues with that with South Tiverton and stuff, so we have to, the Board of Canvassers will be discussing that with the EDS representative. And if I can just mention, for the next council meeting, you will need to have your resolutions ready, because they're due by April 14th, so if you need copies of the ones from last year, I can send that out to you and remind you of that should be on the next council meeting to meet the date.
So that's on your list, to-do list, so we'll make sure it gets on. And this meeting tomorrow is in person. It's in person?
In person.
In person.
Yep.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Bill?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Jay seconds.
Okay.
All those in favor? Donna, you don't want to adjourn?
Oh, I'm
Unanimous.
in my own little world, sorry.